Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. I, 17 female, haven't lived in what most people would call a home in 8 years. I've lived in dorms, shared holiday housing, and occasionally with friends' families when schools closed over breaks. But not once, not in nearly a decade, have I been asked to come back to my father's house. Not until now. Not until he's sick and needs someone to look after him. And suddenly, I'm supposed to drop everything and pretend we're a family again? I didn't think I'd end up here, writing this. But the messages I've been getting lately have me second-guessing everything. So here's the full story. My mom died when I was 7. It was a rainy Tuesday, and she was hit by a drunk driver on her way to pick me up from dance class. I remember sitting on the bench outside the studio, kicking my shoes together while the other kids got picked up one by one. A family friend eventually came and told me she was gone. The world felt like it caved in overnight. My dad was heartbroken. He and my mom had been together since college. He cried for weeks. At night, I'd wake up and find him sitting on the couch with the lights off, holding her old sweater like it could bring her back. In those early months, we clung to each other. I slept in his bed. We ate dinner on the couch. We tried to figure out how to live without her. But grief changes people. And some people can't stand to sit in the ruins for too long. They need to bulldoze the whole thing and start from scratch. That's what my dad did. And he bulldozed me too in the process. He met Linda 6 months after Mom died. She was everything my mother wasn't. Sharp-tongued, fast-moving, always dressed up even when she was just at home. She had twin sons from a previous marriage, Adam and Caleb, both 2 years younger than me. The first time I met them, Linda was sweet. Too sweet. She made a big show of being excited to meet me, brought me a necklace with a butterfly charm, and called me sweetheart in front of my dad. But when he left the room, she gave me this long, unreadable look and said, "I hope we can all get along. For your father's sake." She moved in a few months later. The house changed. My mom's photos slowly disappeared from the walls. Her favorite blanket on the couch got folded and stored away. The cinnamon sugar toast my dad used to make for me was replaced with a strict breakfast schedule. Everything started revolving around the twins. Linda always treated me like I was a guest overstaying my welcome. And my father. He seemed like he didn't want to rock the boat. He'd side with me quietly in private, but back Linda in public. It was like he couldn't face an idea being alone, so he chose Linda's side. When I was 9, I overheard them talking late at night. Their bedroom door was open a crack, and I was looking for my missing art kit. I heard Linda say, "We need to give the boys a stable space. It's hard to raise them in a house that still feels like hers. There's too much of the past hanging around. And your daughter always grumpy and depressed. That's not a good environment for my kids." My dad murmured something I couldn't hear. Then Linda said, "You need to think about all of us. Not just your daughter. My name would benefit from structure. Somewhere she can thrive without all these reminders, and we'd finally have a chance to be a proper family." A month later, I was enrolled in a boarding school 2 hours away. They called it an incredible opportunity, talked about prestigious academics and independence. I didn't understand it fully then, but I knew I was being sent away. The night before I left, I tried to crawl into my dad's bed like I used to. Linda stopped me at the door and said, "You're too old for this. Go to your room." He didn't say a word. Boarding school was lonely. Most of the kids there were used to being away from their families. Their parents visited every other weekend, sent care packages, called every night. I waited for that, for a long time. My dad came to visit a few times in the first year, then less. Eventually, I stopped expecting him. He sent money, Christmas cards. Once, a gift card for my birthday. But no phone calls. No, how are you? Just silence. Holidays were the hardest. I stayed at school with the other kids whose parents didn't want them around. We'd make jokes about being the leftovers, but it always hurt. Meanwhile, I'd see Facebook posts of the new family. Linda, my dad, the twins, at Disney World, or pumpkin patches, or holiday dinners. I wasn't mentioned, not even once. At 13, I stopped crying about it. At 14, I stopped reaching out. By 15, I knew I was never going back. A few weeks ago, out of nowhere, I got a call from my dad. I didn't recognize the number at first. When I answered, his voice cracked. He told me he was sick, liver failure, not terminal yet, but bad. He'd been in and out of the hospital, said he was struggling, that Linda wasn't coping well, that the twins were busy with their own lives, that he needed help. Then came the part that shocked me. He said, "I need you to come home. I want my daughter here." I didn't know how to respond at first. After all these years, he was asking me to come back to the same house I was pushed out of at 9, to help the same people who erased me from their lives. I asked him where home was exactly, because I hadn't had one in nearly a decade. He said, "With me." I said, "You mean with Linda?" He didn't answer that. I told him I was sorry he was sick, but I wasn't coming home. He went quiet, then started saying things like, "We all make mistakes," and "You're still my daughter." Then he said something that made me feel sick. "You don't want to live your whole life bitter, do you?" As if I was the one holding a grudge for no reason. As if being abandoned at 9 was something I should have moved past by now. I said, "I'm not bitter. I just finally learned how to protect myself." He started to cry. I stayed quiet. Then I told him goodbye and hung up. Since then, I've received texts from Linda, first polite, then firm. "Your father needs you. Don't punish him for old decisions. This is your chance to do the right thing. Family forgives, you're being cruel. Don't you have any compassion?" Then a message from Adam, one of the twins. "Grow up. He's your dad. Stop acting like a victim." It's funny. They only started remembering I exist when they needed something. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like someone who was given the short end of the stick and learned to stand anyway. They didn't ask me to come back because they missed me. They asked because I'm useful now. I wasn't good enough to raise, but I'm good enough to caretake. I think about what my life would have been like if I had stayed. Would I have been included in those family vacations? Had movie nights? Would I have had a dad who came to my dance recitals, helped me with math, told me about boys? Probably not, because they didn't want to blend the family. They wanted to replace it. Now they're stuck. The golden setup is falling apart, and they want me, the kid they erased, to come fix it. But I'm not their safety net. I'm not their backup plan. I'm not the forgotten daughter waiting in the wings for her cue. So Reddit, am I an a-hole for saying no when my father, who let my stepmother send me away at 9 so they could start fresh, asked me to come back home now that he's sick and needs help? Not the a-hole. OP was sent to boarding school because they wanted what was best for her. OP was sent away so they could pretend their new family didn't include her. That's abandonment. OP was a grieving 9-year-old who needed her father, and he handed her off like a problem to be solved. Now that their perfect little unit is breaking down, suddenly OP matters again. Nope, they don't want OP back out of love. They want a caregiver, and that's not OP's responsibility. And now let's hear community's opinion. You don't owe them your forgiveness just because your father is sick. Illness doesn't erase what happened. He made a choice. Linda made a choice, and they all lived comfortably with that decision for 8 years, until it stopped being convenient. The fact that you're only hearing from them now says it all. You didn't cut them off. They let you drift away and never looked back. You're not bitter. You're just protecting the peace you built by yourself, not the a-hole. What really stings here is that your father let this happen. Maybe Linda pushed for it, but he agreed. He chose not to fight for you, not to visit, not to call. Then he allowed his sons to send you messages like, "Grow up," as if you're not the one who grew up alone. You're not heartless. You're just done being a second thought. It's okay to say no to people who only see you as useful when they're desperate. Not the a-hole. Imagine being erased from the family at 9 and suddenly being told you're needed because the adults can't take care of each other. You've already lost your mother and spent your childhood raising yourself in a dorm. They abandoned you emotionally and physically. The guilt they're trying to dump on you now is manipulation, plain and simple. You have every right to say no. You didn't get a choice back then. You do now, not the a-hole, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Short backstory. My brother, Tristan, 30 male, and I, 33 female, have not been on speaking terms for over 15 years now. We could never reach common ground from our arguments or fights, and despite my own attempts to reach out to reconcile, Tristan continued to ignore me, so I left it at that. After budgeting and saving up money after years of working, I was well within my abilities to finally purchase a brand new car. The old car, a 2005 Toyota Camry, was still in decent condition, so I planned to hand the title over to a long-term high school friend who was happy to buy it for me because my husband and I already have 2 other relatively new vehicles. My parents, after hearing my plans, tried to change my mind and asked me to consider giving the car to my brother at no cost. He technically has a van that is under my dad's name, and it is working fine, and another that his wife owns. But since he has a big family with 3 kids, they would definitely appreciate an extra vehicle. I was mostly set on my current decision already, but Tristan later contacted me through text, saying that I should put family first, and that he'd forgive me for everything that's happened between us if I gave the car to him. The way he worded things somehow ticked me off, and I replied back saying that he stopped considering me family when he refused to put in the effort to talk to me, and only chose to speak to me at this moment because it would benefit him. So I ended up selling the car to my friend, and now my parents are calling me selfish and immature for wasting the opportunity to patch things up with my brother and helping my sister-in-law in nibblings out. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He could have gotten the car if he had paid for it. He can't just expect to get it for free, especially when you're not even speaking. Not the a-hole, but this is why I generally keep my mouth closed about things. Not everyone in our families needs to hear our plans for every little thing, because everyone will have an opinion. Next time you buy a car, or a house, or get a new job, or anything, just keep your mouth closed until it's done, and then show everyone what you did instead of what you're going to do. Not the a-hole. It's not their decision. It's your decision. Honestly, just don't give the car to your brother. You've not been in speaking terms with him for like 15 years. You don't need to give him anything. My fiancée, Allison, was raised in a mostly loving and happy family. When she was in high school, her mom's husband found out that he had a teenage daughter. Obviously, everyone was shocked, and it was hard to adjust. His daughter, Tessa, was pretty troubled, not blaming her at all. She had been through some serious stuff and did not adjust well to suddenly being in a stable home, going to school, having a parent. Tessa acted out a lot, and it was hard on Allison. Allison had a large party planned for her sweet 16. This was a huge deal to her, and she is such a girly girl, social butterfly type, so this was pretty much on par with a wedding to her. Tessa got asked to prom at the last minute and didn't have anything to wear, so she stole Allison's gown. She didn't even get punished for it. Mother-in-law wanted to punish her, but stepfather-in-law got all emotional about how she missed out on her entire childhood and only got to experience a little bit of high school and to just let it go. Allison was devastated and had to get a last-minute replacement dress for her birthday. Needless to say, Allison and Tessa hate each other nowadays. It really irks me that Tessa was never disciplined, and that Allison has always felt like she came second to Tessa after that. Well, now we are planning a wedding, and so is Tessa. Allison had a dress she thought she loved, but then she saw Tessa's and broke down crying in private. Tessa's fiancé is loaded. She said she always gets second best, and it brings back memories of her sweet 16 dress. I immediately expressed sympathy, but stepfather-in-law snapped at her that Tessa only got to be a kid for a couple of months, and Allison had plenty of birthday parties. He said he is glad that his daughter went to prom and stopped crying over a dress. Mother-in-law said nothing, so I lost it. I said they both failed as parents. They coddled and made excuses for one child, while allowing the other to have her property stolen, and they should be ashamed of themselves. I said if they really wanted to make it right, they would spend some extra money on Allison's wedding gown to make up for the sweet 16 dress she never got to wear. I accused stepfather-in-law of only loving his bio daughter and said mother-in-law should be ashamed for staying married to him when he refused to punish Tessa. This is a dicey one. The parents are a-holes for allowing Tessa to do whatever she wanted. It's not Allison's burden that Tessa didn't have a childhood. She was punished because of it. It is also not Tessa's fault or her parents' fault that Tessa's husband is loaded. Really, stepfather-in-law is the biggest a-hole for pitting the two kids against each other. As for the dress and what you said, I'm going to say you're out of bounds, but I understand why you came to Allison's defense. I'm not sure I find you to be an a-hole over it, but the parents don't owe Allison a better dress. What they owed her, they've already failed at. What the duck? Undoubtedly, there are some a-holes in that family. But you're old enough to be married and still worried about the Sweet 16 dress? Not saying trauma shouldn't be addressed, but honing in on this specific issue instead of addressing what must be a pattern of aggression is odd. It totally destroys the bigger argument, though I doubt the parents would listen anyway. I don't understand either, how was Tessa crying in private and in front of her parents? What does private mean in this situation? Everyone sucks here. But has it occurred to you that you could be the one to pay for a nicer dress for your bride? No, what happened with the stolen dress was not cool. The parents were wrong and unfair. Good on you for standing up for your fiancée. She should always know you've got her back. But she had a dress she thought she loved, until she saw her sister's dress. Then it suddenly paled in comparison. Did she settle based on a budget her parents had given her, and it was the best within the context she could get? My sister had quadruplets last year. They are very cute, but some of them ended up having some mild health issues. Nothing serious. 2 of them need certain medications, and 1 of them has a few food allergies. My sister and her husband had an important event they needed to go to on the other side of the state, related to work. It wasn't something they could afford to miss. They had hoped to reschedule because of the virus stuff, but the vendor refused to reschedule, and if they missed it, they would be out of a source of income. So essentially, their hands were tied. I don't know much about their business, but I know both of them need to be present for whatever reason, so they asked me to watch their kids for them. I said sure. I'm out of work right now, so I told them I would watch all 4 of their kids and take care of their dog for the week in exchange for buying my groceries for the month and $50. We were all happy with this arrangement. It was like taking a bit of loss, but I was happy to help my sister in a bind, and I know she was strapped for cash. My sister's kids are identical. I can only tell one of them apart because they have a distinct birthmark on their shoulder the others don't. I haven't spent much time around them before now. I was worried about missing the medication or giving meds to the wrong baby, so I decided to color code them. Using their clothes didn't help because I had to change them so often and they all shared a wardrobe. I took a non-toxic marker and drew stars on their hands, but that rubbed off almost right away. So I put a little star on their foreheads where they wouldn't be rubbing with their hands. This worked pretty well, and I was able to make sure everything went smoothly and everyone got the medication they needed. My sister came home and saw that I'd drawn on the babies and was pissed. She said they could have gotten ink poisoning, which isn't something I'd ever heard of. She also was mad because the marker smudged and got on her furniture, but it's just Crayola, it's washable. The babies seem fine. She called me an a-hole for not being able to tell my nibblings apart, especially since I'd spent a full week with him. I honestly can't tell if she's more mad about drawing on the kids, the furniture, or the fact that I can't tell her kids apart. I didn't think it was a big deal, but she's really mad, and her husband refuses to get involved. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. A former coworker had to put a bracelet on one of her twins to remember who was who at first. So the fact that they aren't even your kids, not the a-hole. Maybe put a bracelet on them or a certain color sock instead of writing on them though, but honestly, not the a-hole. Probably should have asked your sister or brother-in-law for a method of differentiating, but your solution was pretty creative. Your sister is stressed because she has a whole ton of newborns. 4. 2 with health conditions, a business that was borderline failing, and is handling this all in a virus. The marker probably isn't really the issue. It's just the easiest thing to be mad at right now. Offer to help get the stain out of the couch. Don't just wonder why she can't. And yes, small apology for drawing on the kids. Be a listening ear. She probably needs to vent some. This will be a funny story when the kids are older. No a-holes. Not the a-hole. That is a brilliant solution. You did what you needed to do a good job, and apart from a little ink on furniture, it went off perfectly. I say no harm, no foul. Your sister needs to chill. Edit. The markers, while I thought were washable, seem to have left a small smudge on her couch. She informed me she isn't able to get it out. I do know they are Crayola though, so I'm not sure why she is having trouble with the stain. Edit 2. The couch issue has been fixed. I went over there to help clean it, and with some of the suggestions here, I was able to get it resolved. Couch looks good as new. I haven't been able to talk to my sister yet, since she was dealing with some post-trip work things. But her husband says she's all over the place mentally and probably just needs some space. Edit 3. I wasn't planning on following up, but something funny happened. My sister and I had a talk last night. She apologized for getting mad. She was under a lot of stress and just got done from a very long drive back. She said she was just irritable. She texted me a picture of the kiddos with "Mommy is very sorry" written on them. I got a kick out of it. We're all fine now. I, 29 female, am 25 weeks pregnant. My boyfriend, 32 male, and I have invited our parents and siblings over for dinner to announce the gender, and also to ask for permission to name her after our grandmothers. My mom's mom as first name, and his mom's mom as middle name. Everyone was overjoyed and said we didn't even have to ask permission. I'm so happy. My grandmother died when I was 13, and I miss her every single day. She was the most amazing soul, and so deeply loved. We still all talk about her. She meant the world to my family. My mom pointed out that she did not think I should call my aunt, her sister, and ask if it's okay. I agreed, but I just knew this might cause drama. Not with my aunt. She is a very Peter Pan type personality, and was just very touched that I want to use my grandmother's name. She asked if I had asked my cousin, and this is where it all went downhill. For context, my cousin, 43 female, had a daughter last year after many years of infertility and treatments. Due to her age, she can't have more and can't afford it. She and her fiancé can barely afford one kid. My cousin did want to name her after our grandmother, but her fiancé insisted on his mother's name. She had died 2 years before. My cousin and I are not close. She is a huge brat and has said some extremely hurtful things to me over the years. She treats me like a child and always points out that she was the family favorite growing up. I won't go into specific details, but for my mental health, I had to distance myself from her. I decided to call her and tell her about the name, and she went totally nuts on me. How ducking dare I use that name? It was her grandmother first. She was like a third daughter to her. I was just a little kid and not at all close to her, that our grandmother would cry knowing I stole the name. I told her to calm down, that I do not agree with her narrative, and that this was my decision, and then I hung up. She has badmouthed me to our entire family, and now everyone is taking sides. The ones on her side are all saying that they feel sorry for her, and why can't I just choose another name? I think it's silly to have this much drama over a name, but I loved my grandmother so much, and I would love to honor her this way. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I wouldn't have even called her. She can't own a name. Even if she had named her daughter after your grandmother, I would still say it's okay for you to use it. Not the a-hole. She had her chance to use the name and chose not to. That's the hard truth of it. As the baby's mother, she actually had the legal right to name her whatever she wanted. She didn't have to do what her husband wanted. She chose to. Her reasons for choosing to pass this name over are not the focus. I'm sure they're sound and that it was a difficult decision for her. But at the end of the day, she weighed her options and made a choice. She has to live with that choice now, and that includes watching other people use the name. Not the a-hole. Since your cousin can't use the name, nobody can? That's ridiculous. I can't believe anybody is on her side. Update. I really was going crazy because I think this drama is silly, and just once again my cousin's being a brat. For context, the name is very unusual. My grandmother died after a long battle with cancer, and the loss changed our family. My aunt has now called me and said that she wants to withdraw her permission. After reading all your comments, I found the courage and told her now that I don't really care what she thinks, and I honestly think this is ridiculous. My cousin then grabbed the phone and said that I'm being disrespectful of her challenges, how I've had it so easy my entire life, and my typical childish behavior is showing yet again. That we should agree that nobody uses this name. I told her no, I will not agree to this, and she had a chance to use it. Then it was suddenly about me disrespecting her dead mother-in-law and how I robbed her daughter of this name. She already named her daughter. What the duck? My mom then called and told me to stop taking their calls, that she would handle this. The thing is that my mom, bless her, but she also always makes excuses for my aunt and cousin. So I'm sick of this and will go ahead with the name. I come from a very close family. I have an older sister with 2 kids, 7 female, 10 male. Wife is an only child. Don't know if that's important. My sister lives 30 minutes from me, so I've seen her kids at least once a week since the day they were born. I'm also their godfather. They're a huge part of my life. A few days ago, my wife shows me a picture of a woman on the street holding a sign asking for help for her child's medical bills. I said something like, "That must be a horrible feeling. I can't imagine what I would do if son, niece, and nephew were sick, and I couldn't do a thing." And I thought that was the end of that. A few seconds later, she goes, "Why would niece and nephew be your problem?" I said in kind of a duh way, because they're my family and I love them as much as my son." That just set her off, and she started telling me how my son should be more important than niece and nephew, and that they have their own parents, etc. After a few minutes of it, I had enough, and I told her, I love those kids, and I would take a bullet for any of them, so just leave it. Stood up and locked myself in my home office. My wife would make passive-aggressive comments every now and then, so I tried explaining my side again, but she insists a father should love his children more. No ifs, ands, or buts. I disagree. I don't plan to bring it up again, but if she does, I will fight it until I turn blue in the face. Am I the a-hole here? No a-holes. I think your wife's reaction is coming from a place of fear. If your sister's kids needed cancer treatment, would you rob your child of his future and go into debt? By taking a bullet for your nibblings, you would leave your own child fatherless. You aren't an a-hole if your answers are yes, but you might have different priorities, and your wife might be realizing that she thought she had an equal partner in providing for your child's future, and now she's scared you're going to split the college fund 3 ways and spend your retirement account taking care of your sister. No a-hole, but I can see why your wife was alarmed by your statement. As a parent myself, I can understand loving nieces and nephews, but I can't relate to loving them as much as my own child. I'd love to hear your wife's side of things, and I wonder how she feels about how close you are with your sister and her children, and whether perhaps she feels a little neglected in their favor. You're the a-hole for locking yourself in the office for having a disagreement. Having a tantrum isn't going to solve anything. You're not the a-hole for your opinion, but I agree with your wife. I have nieces and nephews and I love them dearly, but my own children definitely take priority.